Good morning and welcome back to Morning at NTV. Today the topic is on out of school children and a youth in action program that actually put into perspective this age group, and you know what, I said we're going to skill these children and ensure that they live, you know, a good life in the long run. As much as they cannot afford a good and decent education, we'll skill them and make sure that their future is bright. So in studio, I have Samuel Mukchirane, who is the Save the Children Regional Area Manager, Western Region. I also have Stanley Piri, who is the Deputy Country Director, Save the Children Malawi. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for making time.
Thank you.
Before we went on the break, we were asking the question, why did you choose the 12 to 18 age group out of school children?
Yeah. Thank you very much. Viewers, good morning. Basically, Save the Children is a global organization that will be making 100 years next year, and we have been in Uganda since 1959. And we are basically here to ensure that children survive, that children are protected, and that children actually learn. And because of the global movement of child rights and being part of the Human Rights Charter in 1948, and of course the UNCRC that was ratified by Uganda in 1990, Save the Children has actually been here to work together with government and ensure that children can actually be protected, can learn, and can survive. And as you know, that the government of Uganda has got so many programs that target young people, that we have the universal primary education, we have the universal secondary education, but it is well known that not all the children are actually in these schools because of different reasons. And most of the children that have dropped out of school are those between the ages of 12 and 18. Of course, I know that there are also others who have dropped out that are much less than 12 years, but that was mainly where the major problem was.
Yes. And
in the design of our program, we thought that we could actually give back life to these children that of course, after dropping out of school, if not well guided or if not inspired, they can actually end up losing their lives.
Correct. This initiative started in 2012 and it's a 6-year thing, but now it's coming to an end and it's spread across 5 African countries. We have Uganda being the first one, Egypt, Ethiopia, Malawi, which you represent, and Burkina Faso. According to you, are the country director in Malawi. What is the state of, you know, this age group, 12 to 18 in Malawi, that then informed the choice of focusing still on that age group? Is it the same issues we face here in Uganda, the same issues that you're facing in Malawi?
Yes, they are the same issues, actually. If you look at this age group, it also, before the age of 18, it forms the larger majority of the population on all these African countries. In most of these African countries, it's maybe more than 60%. So it's a huge number. And then we also thought that if we don't start early, then we'll have even major problems in the end. So that was also an intentional reason why we decided to focus on this particular age group. So, but then also you do find that for the most part, most of these age group in all these African countries, they are mostly in the rural, hard-to-reach areas.
Correct.
So in terms of being a child rights organization, we thought that was the right thing to do.
Okay. It's been the 5 countries in Africa, but I think the issues cut across, especially in the rural region in Africa. Why did you choose this specific 5 countries? What informed that?
Okay, definitely these countries are not the only countries that we work in around Africa.
Correct. Because
we actually work in more than 120 countries all over the world, and so many in Africa.
For this particular program?
So for this particular program, there was different assessments that had been done to kind of profile the challenges that young people are facing. And somehow it was agreed that these countries had a bigger problem, but also there were issues of synergy. How can these 5 countries work together? How can we compare different situations in the countries to have a very successful program?
And in these 5 countries, what was your scope like? How many children have you been able to impact in total of the 5 countries?
So we originally, our target was originally 40,000.
Correct.
But we've overreached the target.
Oh.
We are well above 41,000 in all 5 countries.
And in Malawi specifically, what was your target and what have you been able to achieve?
In Malawi, our target was 7,000, and we've gone slightly over about 7,000.
Congratulations for that.
Yeah.
How about Uganda?
Yeah, in Uganda, our target was 11,050 young people. We have actually reached 12,050 young people.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's impressive. It's in the program is focused on the out of school 12 to 18 years children in the rural areas, and these are the areas that we face issues where parents feel that the boy child needs to be given a priority, and if then they cannot afford a distance school, fees for school for the children, then in case an opportunity comes up, the boy child is given a priority. What tactics did you use to approach these families and tell them, we need all of them, both the boy and the girl child? What did you use? What tactics did you use to convince them enough to let their children come to your program? We can start with Malawi.
Yeah, so, that's a very good question, actually, because we're facing these gender issues across Africa. And most of the African countries, as we all agree, are highly patriarchal. And one of the things that we did in Malawi is to engage communities, also engage the families themselves, to see if we can discuss with them what those opportunities would mean for them as a family, not just for the individual boy and the individual girl. So it took a bit of engagement. And what we have learned thus far is that if we start early to engage with families and communities, maybe we can do better gender equity. Yeah, so I would say that at the beginning it was a bit difficult.
Okay.
And also most of the girls were dropping out because of pressure, either from, especially those ones that had dropped out of school, maybe they had a partner, or fathers that were not very sure about what the aim of the project was. They were being pressurized to drop out. Yeah. So, but by the by, I think most communities are now coming to understand that it's within their interests to let the girls also.
Is it the same tactics that you employed in Uganda?
Yes, definitely. In Uganda also there was a lot of involvement of the local community, the family, as you had the young people mentioning the families, because these children actually had to understand where they come from, what is it in their community. But there was also a selection criteria that was followed.
Which criteria is
And
this?
actually, in terms of gender, it had to ensure that at least 50 boys and 50 girls are enrolled on the program.
Okay.
And in so doing, at least there was equal opportunity for all the categories.
All right.
Yeah.
Let's get down to the program itself. The module. What module were you using to ensure that it's the rural areas, so number one, language will be a barrier. What module were you using to ensure that you incorporate inclusively all the communities in these rural areas? I think we can start with Malawi.
So the first one, like my colleague said, we had to make sure that we involve also the facilitators that were from those particular communities.
So the facilitators are actually from the rural communities?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, because we wanted to make sure that they are also part and parcel of the initiative that we're taking. But also, like my colleague mentioned, it had to be in the local language to make it easier to understand and to take away. So in terms of the modules, we wanted to focus first on the young people understanding themselves, what their current orientation was, what their future orientation was. So there's a module about myself, and then a module about my family and my community, and leading on to other modules before we actually ventured into other modules. Because we wanted them to understand themselves, what kind of power that they had, what kind of potential that they had.
So in general, what kind of skills are you equipping them with in this particular module?
Yeah, so basically, as you may have seen the theme of this program, it was about breaking the barriers and ensuring that children's potential is actually tapped. And definitely they had to start with themselves, because the self-worth and the self-esteem, building confidence about yourself is very important. We also had to ensure that they are interested in the program and they have purpose to ensure that they actually see themselves succeed. So that was a very important process to ensure that these children can actually be empowered enough to participate on the program. And of course also there was another phase of my family. It was important for children to know their families, because then they would know which opportunities exist in this family, which people can actually support them, guide them, inspire them, and actually even help them as they grow, as they develop. And then there was another component of my community, because we were looking at really empowering these children to break the barriers of surviving within their communities. So what available opportunities are there in my community? What can I do? Can I do a salon in a community? And should now the salon be the pathway that I choose as a training?
So that was the point of information as to what particular business skill then you will embark on. And based after that analysis, which skill did you find that most of them were actually interested in? Is it agriculture? Is it beauty? Is it welding and all these things? In Malawi, what was the major skill that they were interested in?
In Malawi, it was interesting because the one thing that was challenging us as program development professionals was we also wanted to make sure that we give the young people the choice themselves, because we, as a development organization, we want to promote the voice of young people.
Correct.
And that they make their own choices. But when you look at the Malawi, it's majorly it's development, it's agriculture. So around the agriculture value chain is most of what the young people were looking at.
Amazing.
But also there were a lot of, because of the peculiar history of Malawi, a lot of young people wanted to migrate and get opportunities in the city. So you'd find that they would want to for girls, which was pleasantly surprising to us, they would do non-traditional female roles, like they want to do welding.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so that was
impressive. So for the big thing for you in Malawi was agriculture. And it's quite impressive, because the youth nowadays, say agriculture is a dirty thing. It's not cool. Is it the same case in Uganda? What skill did many of them come out saying, you know what, this is what I want to learn more in?
Yeah, it was basically pretty much in agriculture. And as the youth already elaborated, agriculture has a lot of connections along the value chain continuum. And basically in Uganda, you find that many of the young people really had a lot of trainings that were connected to agriculture. If I can give an example of one young person in Toroko called Rickdan, who dropped out of school and comes from a family of 13. And of course, because of different reasons, he could not continue in school. And he had actually to start living as an adult man at a very young age. And so when he came on the program, he was able to go through this training and was able to actually start working even before he completed the training, because he was very passionate about improving his life. And as I talk now, he is involved in different things within his community. He's an idol, he's a role model, he's in fish. He has a fish pond, he has his own house, he has cows, he has goats, he has a farm. He has 9 million in savings, and this is really what we have been able to do. And
that's
so
impressive.
It was really around different areas of development, but really connected to agriculture.
Let's go down to how long does a cohort take, and in each particular cohort, how many students do you include so that you can ensure that there's effectivity and every student is given the much needed attention? In Malawi, a cohort, how long was it lasting and how many children are in each cohort?
So sometimes it was a little plastic. You could have between 100 and 150 sometimes. Sometimes because there was also planning for dropouts. Yeah. So and then like someone said, the duration was 9 months.
Okay.
For the whole project,
okay.
And then also for the following.
All right. And in Uganda, was
yeah.
it
So
9 months as well?
basically in Uganda we had each cohort would take about 60 young people, 30 girls, 30 boys, and in a very particular cohort would have like 2 groups. So 60 young people studying in one place and another 60 people in another different place. And of course this was running across the 4 districts of Uganda: Kabarole, Kasese, Vunivunjo and Toroko. And so at every time you probably have about 500 or 1,000 young people learning in different parts of these 4 districts. And of course the learning would take 5 months, but also there was another 4 months, 4 to 7 months of follow-up, because we did not want these youth really to move on their own. We had to follow up and ensure that what they learned is actually being put in practice.
And were all of them finishing the curriculum? I'll call it the curriculum. Were they finishing the curriculum successfully, or there are some who had to repeat?
Of course, as Afiri already mentioned, these young people are really facilitated and supported to learn because they were actually learning in the local languages. In our case, it was Rutoro, Lubwisi, and Lukonzo. And this really helped them to learn in a very efficient way. I think the only problem that was there, it was maybe some small dropouts. And I think out of the 5 countries, Uganda had the lowest dropout, of course, because of different reasons. I mean, youth, some want very quick things, and probably they had to drop out, and of course also other reasons.
Okay,
yeah.
So at least the success rate was quite
yes, it was
good.
Quite high.
Okay, it was quite high. Let's talk about after they finish the training in the cohorts, what then? Do you finance them to start their businesses? And once they do you support them to ensure that they actually excel in these businesses? What happens?
Yeah, so basically what happened after learning of the 5 months, they had now to like choose different pathways. As they mentioned, others chose vocation, others chose to do business, others chose to do an entrepreneurship. And
this is all informed with what they were trained in?
Yes, basically it was building on what they had been trained. And correct. They were really inspired by the training process. And by the end of the 5 months, they have already figured out what they can do. And basically after completing the 5 months, they would also give a plan that this is the direction that we want to take. And we actually had a committee that we called an advisory committee of experts within their community that could actually give them prior information to the available opportunities
correct.
Within the community or even in the neighborhood.
So then do you finance them to start?
Yes, so those who chose business, yes, they gave us a business plan, and there was an expert panel to look at the business plan, give them advice. But of course, it was in their best interest, really. If they felt this is something that works for us, then we had to support them. So we gave them around $90. That is each, yes, close to 300,000. But there are those who actually wish to work in groups. So they brought their business together and they said, okay, this is how much our business will need. And then we agreed on terms of how to finance that plan, working in a group. But also there were those who really had the passion to work as individuals because of different reasons. And yes, they really succeeded. Most of these succeeded, actually.
Okay, that's great news. In Malawi, after financing them, it's been 6 years and a cohort takes roughly, let's say just on the higher side, 10 months.
Right.
After they start these businesses, in the 6 years, what has been the success rate?
I think for us the success is to see some young people flourish beyond even their wildest dreams, beyond even our expectations. I can give you an example of a young lady and a young man. One young lady decided she wanted to be in the enterprise, and she set up hair salons.
Saloons?
Saloons, yes.
Oh.
But the difference is that, earlier on I intimated that Malawi is very rural. She was not only working with female colleagues, but she was also doing barbershops for men.
Okay.
At first, it was very difficult for men to want to enter into her thing, but now they feel very confident that she can do a good job.
Amazing.
And she's got an idea to move beyond the village and to move beyond the town. And she's doing quite well. She's even employing other colleagues in the village. So she's become a role model, so to speak.
Why is it that we are getting a big success rate in this particular program? Is it that after the cohort, then when you finance them, you support them through? Is it that support factor? What is the secret that you have initiated in your program to ensure that you have high and a big number of success rates?
Yeah, I think for us in Uganda, and I believe across the other countries, it is pretty much about the process, really, the selection process, but also the interest that these young people have in the program. Because for us, that was a very key factor in selecting these young people, because you had to sign up for the program after hearing maybe from the radio or any announcement. So there has been a lot of participation of these young people who are on the program, but also there has been a lot of family involvement and ensuring that they actually support these young people to succeed. And I think that has been a very major driver, because as you've heard, 300,000 is really not a lot of money that can make this huge difference.
Yes.
But I think there is a self-drive, there is a lot of interest, and that the learning that happened, because maybe other programs actually don't include the learning bit in their program.
So the biggest contributor is the inspiration really within these young people.
Yeah.
And do you make visits to their different establishments, the different enterprises, to just check up on them? Malawi, do you do that?
Yes, we do. But just to get back to the question you asked, it's also about the fact that we had a holistic approach. Yeah. So we made sure that the young people were also involved, their families were involved, and the communities were involved. But also on another level, the local government structures were also involved. So there's that buy-in into the program. But then we also mentor the young people.
Mentorship.
Yeah, mentorship. So sometimes when we're doing the monitoring visits, we also mentor them, but we also ensure that they're also being mentored by people that they respect within the communities.
That's amazing. And the other question would be, you have said that you actually finance them to start, for them to stand on their own feet and run. Do they refund back this money? Or it's just given to them and then you just ensure that they actually invest it correctly? Is there a refund kind of structure to it?
Yeah, I think looking at the value of the money, it's not quite a lot of money. So it is really meant to really nurture their potential, really to open up a little bit of barriers that they could have, because they're already inspired. As I told you, Rick Dunn was able to actually start earning millions before he even received the 300,000. So yes, they don't refund this money, but there are also other approaches that the program has been doing to ensure that those who succeed can actually be followed up much later, to even give them more support.
Yes.
And that became one of the reasons that these young people had to work hard, because they knew that probably some kind of a bonus or something would be coming at a later time.
Okay, all right.
To do well.
The program is actually closing in these 5 African countries. Do you have an intention to then come back and then you establish the same program in different rural regions in the different countries? Is that a plan?
Yes, it is an aspiration that we have. But we also feel that if we can show to government, because it's very clear that if the government is not involved and they utilize the resources that they have and the reach that they have, we will not be able to reach as many youth that are needed as possible.
So support from government.
Yeah. So if we can get the support from well-wishers, including donors, we intend to roll out this program. But we also want the government to buy in.
All right, so you want the government to buy, and you're ready to actually sell to them or show them the module that you've been using and why this has actually succeeded for them to copy it in their different initiative. So that has been the conversation today. In case you're in government and you're in charge of any youth livelihood program, they're the guys to go to for consultancy. That program has been quite successful, so we'll leave their contacts on our social media platform. You can reach them anytime. We're going on a short commercial break, but we'll be right back with Take Note. Stay tuned.